It's an exciting day today. Why you ask? Because there's a new KTM in town. Say hello to the Generation 3 KTM Duke 390. Now what KTM tells us is they've gotten back a fair bit of the hooliganism that possessed the Gen 1 KTM Duke 390, and that comes with this new design, a new frame and an all new engine. So is that really the case? Is this Duke just as much as a hooligan as the first generation of the Duke? That's exactly what we're going to be finding out today. Welcome to the Evo India channel. If you like this video, do like it, share it with like-minded enthusiasts and click on that bell icon to stay notified for all things thrill of riding. For a comprehensive look at the design of the new 390 Duke, we have a detailed walk-around video on our channel. To watch that, you can click on the I button on top. For now, let's move on with the performance and the ride and handling of this KTM 390 Duke. Now the original KTM 390 Duke, the first one that launched, back when it launched it really disrupted our market. It gave us a bike that was unlike anything else that was there in the market. It gave us a true taste of international performance at a good price. So that bike, it was really something else, and it really spoiled us for anything else to come. Then came along the second generation Duke. Now the problem with the second generation Duke was that it lost a bit of that manicness that the first generation Duke brought with it. Now don't get me wrong, the second generation Duke was still a great bike. It was precise, it was agile, it handled really well. It got a new frame it's got a new trellis frame with a bolt-on subframe, so it had that going for it. It handled really nicely. In fact, it was a bit better in terms of its sheer handling than the first generation Duke. But like I said, that essence, the hooliganism of the Duke 390 was lost a bit on this, and that is sheerly down to emission norms. With emission norms becoming so strict, it became really difficult for manufacturers to give the same kind of performance while retaining the same low weight and also giving you the same sort of acceleration and performance figures. So if you remember, this is the generation that got the side slang exhaust. It got a big catalytic converter, and that catalytic converter itself was pretty much the size of the entire exhaust system of the first generation Duke. So you can't really blame KTM for doing what they did, but in the process of adhering to these emission norms, this lost a bit of that charm. And as you can see right now, this isn't the most tractable engine as well. This is a proper high-strung performance bike that loves to be revved. It loves to be on the boil all the time, and that's when you actually extract all of its performance. But KTM tells us with this new Duke, the 2024 Gen 3 Duke 390, they have rectified that to a large extent, and they have also gotten back some of that essence that made the Duke so special in the first place. So is that the case? Let's find out. Now it's time to talk about the new 2024 KTM 390 Duke. Now I'm really excited about this bike because it promises to bring back a lot of the character that we really loved and adored the first generation PS3 Duke 394. Have they managed to do that? Well, right off the bat, this does feel like a completely new motorcycle, and there are a few reasons for that. Now KTM does tell us that this is an all-new engine. Whether or not it is all-new is something I can't really confirm at this moment, but a quick look at the spec sheet will tell you that this does have a longer stroke, and the displacement has also gone up from 372 to 399. Now what that has allowed KTM to do is extract more power and torque from this motor, and this now makes 44.5 bhp and around 39 newton meters of torque, which is roughly a bhp one odd bhp and 1 odd newton meters of torque more than before. Now this might not sound like a big jump on paper, but it does feel very different, and that is also down to this new airbox. The airbox is also larger, like KTM did from the previous gen RC to the current gen RC. It is larger, which is why you have this new offset monoshock. Now that's not only an aesthetic feature, it is also functional because it is making space for a bigger airbox. Now what that means, like from the previous RC to the new RC, this feels a lot more tractable, and more than tractable, it feels like it has a much better mid-range, and you don't need to wring its neck out to get performance. If I'm just like right now, I'm cruising at third gear in around 30 kmph, and it's fine, it's comfortable. I have enough pep to give it the beans and go if I want to, and at the same time I don't feel the need to immediately downshift. And as far as have KTM managed to get a bit of that character back, well, that's a resounding yes from my end, because this feels so peppy, so lively. And don't get me wrong, the previous 390 Duke, the second gen 390 Duke, was a great bike. We loved it. It was amongst our favorite naked bikes in the segment back when it launched, and it maintained that position for a while. But this, it immediately takes the crown, because it really does get back a lot of that essence of the 390 Duke, the one that was ranty. Ranty is the word I've been wanting to use, because this gets back a lot of that. You feel like you're about to have some insane experiences on this the second you open the throttle, and it just goes. Now this also has a nicer sounding exhaust, because KTM has decided to do away with the side slung exhaust, and we're back to an underbelly exhaust. So the Duke design comes full circle of sorts. In terms of refinement, this still continues to be a very refined bike. Now I'm not saying it's the most refined thing you've ever ridden, but there are a few vibrations that do creep in every now and then. But I'm going to call that and chalk that up as character, not vibrations, because they really make you feel like you're riding a nice internal combustion motorcycle. And with most things going electric these days, it's nice to have a reminder that ICE is still alive and kicking, and you still get bikes like these days. So yeah, now you have riding modes. These are not just ABS modes like they have been in the past. These are proper full-fledged riding modes. So you have a rain mode, which not only softens the throttle response quite a bit, but it also reduces the power outputs a bit. Now I don't know exactly what the power outputs are, but a quick switch to rain mode and you immediately feel like this feels slower. It feels more in control, like calmer, more composed bike, something that you'd feel safe riding in the rain with. Then you have street mode, which has your ABS and traction control on road settings, and then you have track mode, which allows you access to launch control. Yes, this bike gets launch control, and it is an extremely interesting feature to have. Now in terms of the electronics, in my time riding, I rode this at the Chakan test track and also now out here on the road. How much I pushed, I never really found the limit of traction on this bike, and even if the traction has come on, it has been fairly transparent in its functioning. It's not really hampered the riding experience as far as I can tell, so that is a good thing. And even the brakes are strong. You have 320mm rotors, the same as the 390 Duke, the previous one, but because this has the new wheels, the rotors are mounted on the rim directly rather than being mounted on the hub. So that is, and again, an interesting touch. The electronics, they work great. The only limiting factor, and again, this factor will be limiting if you are of a certain skill set already and you need more, is the tires. Now they don't feel as out of place as they do on the RC390, because again, you have to realize the riding position of the RC390 is such that you're on top of the front wheel, so you're expecting the front to do a lot more for you. So that is not the case here. But when the lean angles start getting higher and you're consistently doing faster speeds and leading the bike more and more and more, that is when you will realize that the tires are limiting the chassis, and the chassis has a lot more to give. So the tires are one place that you can look at upgrading once you've really understood what this bike is like. Coming to the handling of this motorcycle, well, the frame is pretty much all new. You have an all new rear subframe. The steering geometry also is slightly different, and the riding position also feels a little more aggressive. You're slightly canted forward, very slightly so, and more than aggressive, I would say it feels more like a supermoto, more like what the Duke was supposed to be. So in that sense, yeah, it feels really nice, and the lighter wheels, front and rear, have really transformed the way this handles. Now, the KTM has always been the benchmark of handling. It's been a sharp, precise, agile motorcycle, and this takes it one step further. I think telepathy is the closest way I can describe how this motorcycle handles, because it's pretty much point and shoot. It's not like a DSLR camera where you need to set settings or do any of that. You just look where you want to go, and the bike will do what it needs to do to get you there as fast as possible. And with this new engine tune, it's a lot more forgiving to ride as well, because the added mid-range, it just makes for an easier bike to ride. If you miss a shift, it's not the end of the world. On the whole, this new 390 Duke is a really fun package, and it really brings back a lot of that joy of the old 390 Duke, and I absolutely adore this for that. The next thing I want to talk about is the suspension. For the first time on a Duke 390 in India, you get adjustable suspension. And no, before you ask, this isn't a power part. this is actually stock, and that's how the bike ships from the factory. So you have rebound and compression adjustment at the front, 5 clicks of each, and at the monoshock you have rebound adjustability again, 5 clicks of that, and 10 clicks of preload adjustability. So that's a pretty comprehensive level of adjustment that you can do to the suspension. I've been riding the suspension on stock settings the whole day. I did a bit of compression and took away a little rebound, and that's been working pretty well for me. The overall suspension setup is on the stiffer side, and that is what you expect from a Duke anyways, right? So you have that stiff, darty, sporty setup, and this still has that. On the whole, there's a comprehensive overhaul to the chassis as well, and that just makes this that much of a step up over the previous Duke. The fact that you get this as standard and not as a power part, I think is just great. So yeah, that's been it about the ride and the handling and the performance of the 390 Duke. Now the KTM 390 Duke, it not only gets a comprehensive update in the design, chassis and engine front, it also gets a comprehensive electronics upgrade. It now gets cornering ABS, cornering traction control. In track mode, the new riding mode that's there along with all the new riding modes, it also gets launch control. So all of that makes this that much more versatile in terms of what all it adds in terms of features, and all of the features that have been added are very usable. It also retains the same connectivity features, and the quick shifter also now works a lot better than it did on the previous generation 390 Duke. Now you might be wondering that all of this is coming at a hefty price tag update, but it really isn't. Previous Duke, the last updated pricing was around 2.97 lakh ex-showroom, and this one costs rupees 3.10 lakh ex-showroom. That's barely 13,000, and in 13,000 you're getting all the extra electronics, you're getting a higher displacement engine which makes more power, you're getting a better chassis setup by way of adjustable suspension at both ends. Overall, you're getting a more wholesome package, one that performs much better than the previous generation, and one that definitely brings back the hooliganism nature. Now it's not as much of a hooligan as the BS3 Duke, but you can't really expect that with emissions being the way they are right now. So in my books, KTM definitely has a winner on their hands with this bike. Would you pick this over its competition? Do let me know in the comment section down below, and thanks for watching.